back to another episode of Soulful Feast, bite-sized information to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. I am your host, Stephanie Zubiri, and today I want to talk a little bit about postpartum depression. Yes, it's not something we talk about a lot, but you know what? It really happened to me and it was hard. I loved being pregnant. I was one of those really lucky people who just really enjoyed pregnancy. You know, I always had insecurities about my belly, so it was so nice to have a big stomach and really enjoy it and embrace it. I felt so good as a woman. I felt so powerful to be able to have, this life growing inside of me. And then everyone was so kind and gentle to me. And then when I gave birth, it was like a totally different story. I mean, let's have a real talk here. There's obviously joys of being a mother, especially a first-time mother, how exciting, your heart expands. But it's also one of the most difficult times, I believe, for a woman. And it comes with so many challenges. And there's a lot of pressure on us women. Number one, pressure on ourselves, like, are we doing the right thing? You're always questioning yourself, different types of parenting. Is it this way or that way? You also have like judgy mothers. Are you breastfeeding? Are you not breastfeeding? Are you sleep training your baby? Like, oh my God. And pressure to like go back to work, pressure to bounce back in your body. It's really difficult. And a lot of women go through this in silence. 1 in 7 women experience postpartum depression. That's about 15% of the population. And that's only the women who really talk about it and recognize it, and some women don't even recognize that they're going through that. For me, it presented itself as just being inadequate all the time. I would actually lock myself in the bathroom and stare at myself and just sob. I would just hate on myself and just sob. And I really couldn't understand why. And what was weird was that postpartum depression never crossed my mind because it actually didn't happen right after I gave birth. It happened when I stopped breastfeeding a year and a half after I had given birth. So I never linked the two until my OB, who I went to because I was like, what is happening to me? Do I need pills? Do I need help? And she was like, maybe it's postpartum. So, it's a tough thing, and I would love to talk about that and talk about why we're so hard on ourselves and, the body image issues that we have, and just have a safe space for women. So here today with me on this podcast is someone very special who's actually in my book club. And, it's wonderful because she's so open about her struggles with body image and self-love issues. We have entrepreneur, host, actress, and podcaster Belle Daza. Hi, Belle.
Hi, Steph. Thanks for the intro. It's so sweet. And I'm so happy to be here on your podcast, Soulful Feasts. And I'm excited for you to be in this space because, like we talked about just kind of earlier, it's such a different medium. And it's a lot of fun.
It
So,
is. And
congratulations.
thank you. And I love how honest and open people are in this space, right? I think
Yeah.
it's so different from the world that we live in. When I did TV, it's so glossy, everything's so
Yeah.
scripted, and it's nice.
Exactly. It's true. Yeah. Even when you write articles, Diba, you just kind of have to like go over it several times and stuff. And then the podcast is like you can just curse and say your real
It's great.
thoughts.
I
Yeah.
love it. All right, so let's get into the heart of it. Like, can you share with me your journey? When was the first time that you really felt like it was your lowest point? Was it after your first pregnancy or the second?
So I have 3 kids. My first pregnancy was in 2018. I was probably like 4 months postpartum, and it was really difficult because I was kind of just always staying at home. I felt very uncomfortable in my body. I've always been really fit, physically looking like it. And when I gave birth, I just didn't know who I was. Like, do I wear cutoff shorts? Am I still young, or am I a mom now? Do I have to wear like knee-length skirts? And at that time, a lot of my friends who are in the same industry were very busy. Some people were launching new products, and some people had these endorsements. Other people had like events and stuff. And I just felt like I was stuck at home watching people scrolling on my phone, Instagram, like breastfeeding. And I really questioned my life and what I was doing. Right. So I remember there was a low point where I just couldn't look at myself in the mirror because I wasn't losing weight and I felt so stuck. The word is really feeling stuck. I was also sleep deprived, as you know, because when you're like waking up at night, it's just not a good balance. You're not at your optimum potential when you just give birth. You're trying to figure out how to feed the baby and you're sleep deprived. And then the worst thing is to go online, see what everybody else is doing. And you're just like, what am I doing with my
Like in the
life?
middle of the night, right? Like you're
Yeah.
pumping or breastfeeding and you feel like
Yeah.
a cow when it's like wah,
Exactly.
wah, wah. And then they're
Yeah.
like, whoa, why is everyone so hot and young? And
Yeah,
then you're
exactly.
like a milk factory. Yeah.
Exactly. No, yeah, you get me. So it was very hard on the inside. Obviously outwards you still have to like produce content and like,
Yeah.
talk about stuff. But inside in my home, I was always second guessing myself. And I have a husband, Adrian, who's very supportive of me. And I would always be like, you don't know what I'm going through, obviously. And there was this one point where I remember Kylie Jenner had a cover and it was like Forbes, like billionaire or
Oh,
something like
yes,
that.
that's right. Youngest billionaire or something
Youngest
like that.
billionaire. And I was watching it and I was like, wow, she must be so happy. I just like made that comment, right?
Yeah.
Just also kind of dumb of me. But when my husband heard that and he was like, Kylie Jenner isn't happier than you. Like she has more money, but she's not happier. And so we had this whole discussion on basically what our lives were, what we wanted in our lives, right? Yeah, so that was kind of the heart of when I was going through postpartum, and then I had to seek help as well because it wasn't enough that yeah, it just wasn't enough. I wasn't feeling like I was being cured or I wasn't feeling any better. So I went to see a neuropsychologist, and I've talked about this before. Her name is Leah Bernardo.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, she talked about self love, and I didn't know what that was in 2018. Like, of course, I know what self love is. Like, I buy myself things all the time. Um,
Isn't that crazy? It's like, I deserve this. Like, we equate self love with purchasing stuff for ourselves, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
absolutely not. It's like fake, right? It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
buying your child's love. It's not real love, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a misconception. So I was going to counseling with her, and I didn't understand that concept of self love, and it took me a lot of time to understand what it meant. And one of the things that she said to me that stuck to me the most was, you have to accept who you are and you have to know that you're enough so that your child, when he looks in the mirror, he knows that he's enough.
That's a powerful, right? It's a powerful change in perspective that
Yeah,
you don't have to be anything but just exist to be enough,
exactly. Yeah,
right? It's like
yeah,
also in our line of work, there's so much pressure on being relevant, right?
yeah,
Like, I mean, going back a couple of years when I was just first married to my ex, and I had like this image of being like hot young chef when I was like still
yeah,
cooking, and then I
yeah,
got married, and then I just got no endorsements, and then some agency was like, well, you know what? Kasi you're irrelevant na. You're married, so you can't be like hot and young. So you need to have
yeah.
kids so you can be like young mommy. I'm like, that's
Y-
really crazy. And
yeah, it's
this is really ridiculous. And the worst part is when I did have a child, I totally cultivated that image because it's what I thought society wanted of me. Okay, now I'm a mom, so I have to like do all this mommy stuff. I have to dress like a mom. I have exactly what you said. It's like I can't wear cut
yeah,
off shorts anymore. There's like a
yeah.
mommy look. It's like why? Like why can't I just be me? And it took me a long, long time, like over a decade to figure that out, and
Yeah.
I think with my first child it was so easy to bounce back because I was young, and then the second child I was older, and it was just the weight wouldn't come off, or when it did I became so scarily thin and just unhappy, and all these
Yeah.
things were going well but I was just not happy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. So I needed to basically seek help, and actually that's the first time I really spoke about like actively seeking professional help in 2018, and people weren't really talking about mental health yet. People
No.
now are just like, everybody's advocacy now is mental health. But in 2018, I didn't know where. Nobody was talking about it. Nobody had the resources. So I did do that. It really helped me. I even kind of made this toy during COVID. It's called Tralala the Tiger, where I wanted children to grow up with self-esteem. And when you press the toy, it says, I am beautiful, I am unique, I'm loved, I'm enough, I'm perfect just the
Yeah.
way I am. Because growing up with this digital age, we just can't help but compare ourselves to others. And that subconsciously makes us deeply, deeply unhappy and insecure of who we are. And I don't want that for my children or my son. At that time, I was like, everything he is, he's enough. Right. So I always
Absolutely.
tell him that. And we actually do affirmations every single day.
I like that.
Yeah, we'll just spend like maybe 3 to 5 minutes in the floor, like, okay, 3 affirmations today, and 3 things you're grateful for today, because I feel it is a great base to really remember what we have and not focus on what we don't have, which is what I was focusing on postpartum.
And I think a lot of people do that, right? We always see the grass is greener. We see what's lacking,
Yeah.
the half full, a half empty mentality, right? Where do you find that your following pregnancies were easier, or that you had the tools to sort of like manage it?
Yeah. So my first pregnancy was one of the most difficult because I was just like the blind leading the blind. I didn't know how difficult it was going to be. I also gained 70 pounds, which is way overweight. I was almost gestational diabetic. The second pregnancy was a little bit more of a breeze because it was during COVID and we had gone to France and I had to do everything myself. So I was able to like lose the weight, and parang I didn't think so much. But this pregnancy, I gave birth 7.5 months ago, was probably a different challenge in my marriage. And I say that because my husband and I have been together for like 15 years, but with this pregnancy, I just was really mean to him. And he was kind of like, whoa, like I've never seen this side of you. And one of the reasons was I just had such a short temper, and my anger was targeted towards him. So what I wanted to share was postpartum, I learned, isn't only about being depressed or sadness. Through this third pregnancy, I had a lot of anger in my body that I wasn't healing or I wasn't letting it out. And when it would come out, I would lash out on my husband, even though he's like the most supportive person ever. He never even would say something mean to me. It's really weird. But I have like really mean comments that I say to him that he's like, that was hurtful. And I just kind of lived with it until we had this one big blowout. And he was like, that's not what you told me in our wedding vows and our wedding day. And then I was crying and I was like, my hormones are, I can't explain why I'm mean to you. But I was crying because I was like saying, I was so sorry, but yet I couldn't explain why I was so mean. And so I just said, it's this postpartum. It's easy to blame that. And I
No, but
think only,
it's real. Like
yeah, it's so real. Yeah.
you know, like kind of off topic but related. So, I mean, my kids are like 7 and 9 now, but not too
Yeah. Oh my
long
gosh, they're
ago,
so big now.
they're so big. I know.
Yeah.
It's like they're like the real people.
Yeah.
Like, so about a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with PMDD, premenstrual dysmorphic disorder. So
Okay.
it's basically, think of it as really, really bad PMS.
Okay.
And it presented itself as fucking, I was fucking crazy, man. Like, I mean, sorry to curse, but
Yeah, yeah.
I would just go batshit. Like, 1 week in a month, it was so debilitating
Yeah.
that I was like, I would feel my skin like curdle, like my blood was curdling, and I was like
Yeah.
itchy. And anyone who came up to me on that particular day, I would just bite their head off for
Yeah.
no reason. Like, this would happen and then this would happen. And I would
Yeah.
say these horrible, mean things. And then after, like, self-loathe, like,
Yeah.
what is going on with me?
Yeah.
Like, it came to a point where I was like, I need like help. Like, this is unsustainable. Like I was shouting at everyone. I was angry at my children. Like, what did they do? They didn't do anything. You know, they would just walk in the room and I just don't like your face today, but sorry. You're like, I just, and it was, and hormones are real. Like it's a real thing. And I feel like it's kind of sad because a lot of people make fun of it. Oh, PMS, whatever. But I mean, it's a real struggle because we're still expected to perform. We're still expected to be a part of society. We're still expected to do our duties and do it with a smile. But you know, as you get older, the fluctuations and the changes, like let's not even talk about menopause yet. Like I see it in the horizon. And, you know, I'm like, oh my God, if I'm not menopausing yet, what am I
Yeah.
going to be like? But you know, hormones are real, but it's not an excuse, but it's good to be aware. And I think that's kind of like the purpose today. Let's look at these things and really see that, you know, perhaps it's not just, you know, emotional, but there's also a physical thing that we can look at, right? And if we don't talk about it, then women don't go and seek the help that they need, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I realized I couldn't control my anger. And I'll give you like one example. We were on vacation in France and we had decided that we were gonna go for a run at 7 a.m. And for some reason, like the baby woke up and I couldn't join him on the run. And he was like, "Is it okay if I go ahead and we can just run later?" But I have this thing where I have to work out in the morning. Otherwise, the whole day gets so messy because I have like so much responsibilities with the kids and emails and whatever. I just need to get it done in the morning. And and I had said yes because I my knee-jerk reaction is not to express how I truly feel, but be like this kind of like I wouldn't say people pleaser, but just say yes even if I don't mean it. So I was like, yeah, okay, go ahead. I'm just gonna sit here and breastfeed. And then when he came back, I didn't talk to him for like 2 days. And he was like, I don't
what did
get
I
it.
do?
Yeah, he was like, what did I do? I asked you if I could go, but then, and then you said yes. And then now you haven't talked to me. And so I have this crazy disproportionate reaction to a small thing. And so we're actually seeing, I'm seeing a therapist. I regularly see a psychiatrist who helps me. And he was, like you said, he said that it's good that I'm aware that my reaction is so disproportionate. Like, even if I know that this is insane, I'm not talking for him for 2 days, my pride is still up there. I'm just not gonna do it, right? I'm not gonna lower it down and calm down. Like I said, I couldn't control my anger. And so when I went to see my psychiatrist, he was like, the reason why you have this whole disproportionate reaction is because you're trying to punish him. But what you don't realize is when you communicated, yes, he can go, that was like a go signal that he would be able to do that. So what I'm working on is saying what I need
You really feel.
exactly saying what I really feel and not expecting. So it's kind of like communication skills, right? Being
Yeah.
able to say what you really want rather than expecting,
So
because
why do
that's
you
where the
think
resentment builds. Yeah,
why
go
do you
ahead.
think women are like that, right? Like why do you think that I feel like we're always expected to to say yes, right? And like where do you think, at least for you in your own experience? I mean, I can talk about myself. Like I've always been a people pleaser and I had to undo it. Like my therapist made a lot of money trying to undo my people pleasingness, right? Like, yay, thank you for helping me. And every day it's the same. It's like every day is a struggle in trying to recognize, where is this reaction coming from? Is this really me, or is this, you know, my ego talking, or my need to people please? But you know, as you get older, when you can sort of see yourself in third person, it's like easier, right? But where do you think, for you, where does it come from? Is it something from childhood? Is it something that, you know, yeah, like where do you think that need comes from?
I think women are just so emotional, and we and there's two sides to it, right? So women were emotional and we do things without people having to ask, right? For everything, for in the house, you'll buy fresh flowers to make the house look nice. You'll get the kids' food ready. You'll make sure they have socks. This is just my theory, right? So we don't need somebody to ask us to do something. Like we understand the job. Whereas men are very much like they need to be told what to do, right? If they don't, let's, I don't know, take out the trash or clean the car, or they need to pick up a cake, they're not going to do it. And I'm not saying because they want to do the bare minimum. It's just how their brain works, right? They need to be told, okay, tonight we're actually going to be having dinner. Make sure you buy a bottle of wine so we
There's a
have something to
scope.
drink.
There needs to have
Yeah.
a scope of work,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yeah.
so sometimes us as women, we expect them to know certain things. Like we expect men to know when our anniversary is and to know what we want for our anniversary. But men aren't like that. You need to literally tell them and spell it out. Whereas us women, we're thoughtful. Like if your person will say, oh, you know what, I really have been meaning to buy that book, then you're going to be like, noted. And we're
True.
thoughtful enough to be like, you know what, I'm going to get you this book for your next thing. But
Yeah.
men, they don't get parinig. They don't understand that. It's like you really need to,
Spell it out.
spell
Okay,
it out to them.
I'm gonna ask all the guys out there. Feel free to comment and send us your comments. Is this true? Are you
Yeah,
guys really hardwired like that? I'd love to hear your perspective. It would be fun to,
that's my theory.
actually, is that really how it is, or are we just crazy because we expect you to know? Because
Yeah.
that's also, we expect men to know, but not even just men, like women. I think in general, like our society is hard on women, because we can talk about that Barbie monologue where we're expected to be thin but not too thin, be fit and strong, but also like subservient, and like there's just so many things that we have to be, and they're all contradictory. And has this been difficult on you as you get older and in the space you're in, being so public? Like, do you feel pressure to be relevant? Do you feel pressure to, reinvent yourself? Because whatever, I don't know, algorithms are changing, who knows?
Yeah, I think if you're asking, like, do you feel the pressure to maintain a social media presence? There is a pressure to post, yes, but I don't necessarily feel it's as big or as loud in my head as it was in 2018. I've really done a lot of inner work with my psychiatrist, with my psychologist, even at like just kind of learning for myself what is my purpose. And so what happens when you get sucked into social media and into the digital ages, but you're so focused on what everybody else thinks about you. But the truth is nobody's actually thinking about you. Everybody's focused on thinking about themselves, right?
Absolutely. Oh my God. So I'll tell you something super funny. Like, last year at Tatler Ball, I haven't told this to anyone in public, but last
Yeah.
year at Tatler Ball, I was taking pictures in my gown and I was super excited. It was the first ball in like year after the pandemic. I was hosting. I had this beautiful gown made. My dog peed on it.
Oh my god.
Before I left the house, I was like,
Oh
what the
my
fuck?
god.
I was like, oh my God, you fucking bitch. What you did? I was like so stressed. I'm like, I'm going to be on stage. There's this big bee stain there. I'm like trying to wash it, trying to whatever.
Shit. Yeah.
And then my partner, my friend was like, oh my God, you know what? No one is going to notice. I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you mean no one's going to notice? I probably smell like dog pee. Like, they're like,
Yeah.
no. Like, everyone cares only about how they look and their gown. No one's going to notice. True enough, no one noticed. I just like,
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
don't even mention it. Don't even mention it. I was like, oh my God. So after, I was
Yeah.
like, can't believe I walked around the ball with like
With dog
dog
pee.
pee.
No, but it's
It
true,
was
right?
true.
So
Like,
like
no one
we are
noticed.
so what's the word? Maybe we're so self-involved. We don't
Yeah.
realize that everyone is actually so self-involved. And just like talking about the Tatler Ball, the one this year, I was kind of hesitating to rewear a dress that I wore last year for my cousin's wedding. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna wear it. I actually love the dress. I'm gonna be happy if it fits me, and I'm just gonna rewear something. So I feel in that sense I've grown as a person because I care less about what other people would think, but I care more about if it's aligned with my values. And it's really hard to shape yourself when you're constantly being comparing yourself to others and also being pressured to be a certain way. It's hard to find yourself, especially in this digital age. And it takes a lot of inner work. It takes a good support system, and it takes like friends and family who will always have your back to know that, oh, actually, no, I don't need to post every day. I don't need to try to stay relevant. I just want to post things that align with who I am. Right. So now more than ever, I've said no to a lot of projects or a lot of like brands that want to collaborate, even though, you know, I should need it most now because I have 3 kids. Because I don't find that it's really authentic. And
Yeah.
think that that word is thrown around just so often. Like what does authenticity really mean? And it's you really need to take the time to sit in this uncomfortable situation where you have to define who you are, what you stand for, and what it means to be authentic to yourself. In order,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
I think inner work is really the key. How can you align with values if you don't know what your values are, right?
exactly.
At the end of the day, you're like, you end up this version of yourself that you don't recognize or know, and you're not comfortable with yourself. So, and it's not easy to do it. Like I therapy is actually really hard and very uncomfortable because you dig up
It's very,
all
yeah,
the
daunting.
shit, right? You
Yeah,
dig up all the shit that you don't, maybe you've buried for a
yeah,
reason because it's painful, right?
yeah,
But then it's so liberating to actually get to know yourself and really know what you want in life and what you want out of life. And I like to replace the word authentic also with align, because it's
yeah,
like, what's really authentic, some days are different. You don't know, you can also evolve, right? So what's authentic now might not be tomorrow, but your values are often the same. So what's aligned with your values, right? What are some of the strategies that you use today? Because like personally, unless you really need it, and I think there are some cases with people with depression who really need the help and really need the medication. There's a lot of mental health disorders out there. But for many of us who are not necessarily in that space, like there are so many strategies out there to help us. So what are some of those tips or strategies that you
yeah.
have?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's easy to talk about mental health, but what are tools in order that the listeners can use to kind of get out of this slump? Being one with nature, going for a walk. It doesn't even have to be like a super hard workout. It's really stepping out of your room and doing something outside that will create movement. It's a different kind of energy that brings into your body. And you might not um highlight it so much, but when you do start moving, you see your body changing.
So like with movement, body, mind, and spirit are one. And there's so many studies. I really love the studies of like William Reich and Alexander Lowen, and the book of Ken Dickwald, which is Body Mind. Basically, your body stores all the trauma and all the emotions and all the negative energy and positive energy. And the easiest way to release that is through movement, right? Like there, you see it a lot every day now. The somatic movement is becoming a trend, and it's absolutely, you've not only do you have endorphins, but the actual physical movement will release the stored tension in your body.
Yeah. So movement is one. Number two is probably getting off your phone. I think one of the main causes of our depression is subconsciously comparing our lives to others. Seeing people who have so many likes, so many comments, and seeing a video that's really popular, and you're like, okay, what am I doing with my life? So limiting your time on the phone, you have to actually do it. And that's easy to say, but hard to do. One of the tips that I do is I put my phone in a different room, and I either like try to pick up a book or a journal and write things down that I'm grateful for, or just nothing looking at the screen. Something that really raises my frequency or makes me happy is playing Whitney Houston
I love
or
it.
Justin, yeah, or like
Want to
Despacito.
dance with somebody?
Yeah, and just yeah, exactly that. how will I know and how I want to dance with somebody, and just blasting it really loud and just like shaking my booty. And that really makes me smile and laugh and giggle and kind of forget everything that I'm worrying about. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's a technique, raising your frequency. Another technique could be meditation. I do that like in the morning, just for 2 minutes, but breathing, because it teaches us to be present and in the
And
now.
still and sit with
Yeah.
your feelings, right? So I'm not sure if a lot of people out there know this. I'm slowly like coming out of my spiritual shell, but I am a Reiki practitioner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just got certified this year, and I'm working towards
Awesome.
being Reiki master. So I'm really
Yeah.
like sensitive to energy. It's actually been a bit hard during event hosting season, because I have to take like proper steps to like protect my energy and build a wall
Yeah.
around it, because I'm such a like giver of energy.
Yeah.
But energy is everything. And at the end of the day, like Nikola Tesla once said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, it's look into energy, because energy is everything. We are actually just like little pieces of vibration, right? That like vibrate so fast it looks like something tangible, but we're really all intangible. And I think when you think of it that way, you think of how you can affect a radio frequency up and down, bring your vibration up or low, and you just start to be more selective with what you surround yourself with. You surround yourself with positive people, you surround yourself with positive things. Are you, looking at stuff that makes you feel bad? And you really become more selective with what comes in. It's not just your food intake, but also
Everything
whatever you
around you. Exactly.
consume, right? Everything.
Exactly.
So,
Like
yeah.
I agree. You also, I think when you get older, as we do with kids and stuff, you learn that energy is actually your time and your energy is limited, right? So
Yeah.
it's so precious because you're like, I only have this much energy and I'm going to give it, let's say, to this podcast because I want to do it because it's cool, it's going to help people, it's fun. But if somebody says, oh, I don't know, let's say an old friend invites you to lunch and you're just like, you know what, this person wasn't so great to me and I don't really have anything. Are you gonna channel your energy trying to reconnect with somebody that you don't really get along with? You basically say no to things a lot more now. Whereas when we were young, we were like, yes, yes, yes to everything, right? And then in the end, you go home and you have nothing left for yourself,
Absolutely.
right?
Yes.
So I think what a lot of people also don't realize is, yeah, saying no to people is a big yes to yourself, and you need to protect, like you said, your own energy.
Absolutely. I think it was easier during the pandemic because it was easier to say no to stuff. It's
Yeah,
harder now that the world is open, especially for us. Our work is so public, right? So, but just being really honest with how much you want to put out there and what gets back. Like we always talk about fair energy exchange. In like our light worker practice, right? But at the end of the day, it's for everyone. Is it a fair energy exchange, even with your interactions with people? Are people giving you back as much as you give out to them? And maybe it's not even intentionally giving back, but more like being in this person's presence makes you feel happy and
yeah,
joy. So they are giving back to you in some way, right? So
yeah.
I think it's really about that concept of fair energy exchange in everything that you do and all the choices you make. Just to wrap it up here, Belle. Like, what is one change? Because I love to like end each episode with kind of like something that people can do today to take a step to a better, more expansive life. So, what is one change that anyone can do today, or one thing?
I was having a discussion with some friends over dinner, and I asked them, "What is your purpose in life?" And one of them said, "My purpose in life is to find my purpose." So I would probably like to pose that question to your audience. Have a discussion on with your friends, with your family, with yourself on what you think your purpose in life is, because that's going to direct you in making decisions. For example, in switching jobs, in accepting, certain invitations, if it aligns with your purpose in life. now that we get older, we're so much more like philosophical, and again, like we said, we have a limited amount of energy, so we want to protect that. And I always say that, does it align with my purpose in life? Is doing, let's say, this podcast align with my purpose in life, or is going for a walk with my friend, does it align with my purpose in life? I know it sounds so like, okay,
It's true
exag,
though. It's not exag.
but it's a really good kind of compass to direct us with what we're doing. Even now, if a listener is deciding, oh, I want to quit my job, but I don't know, I'm kind of, am I doing the right thing? It's really good to flesh out what their purpose in life is, because that will help them make big decisions and even small ones.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love it. It's true. It's hard to find that ikigai, right? That purpose. What is our purpose in life? And sometimes it changes too,
Yeah,
right?
and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I would like to leave the audience with today is probably, guys, take the time to get to know yourself. So really just
Yeah.
sit with how you feel, even just for 5 minutes today, right after this, after you've listened to it, just sit and take stock of your life, take stock of the things you're grateful for, take stock of the things you feel like you want to change, and know that you do have the power to change. And you are the master of and the co-creator of your reality, right? So I think yeah, take that time, because we don't often take the time to really reflect.
We're always on the go.
Absolutely. So, Belle, thank you so much. I think this has
Thanks.
been really helpful for a lot
Yeah,
of
I hope
people.
so.
Yeah, like
Thanks,
our
Steph.
conversation took a whole other turn, and I love
I
it. And
know.
that's what's great. But also, for those out there, just, little sidebar, if you are experiencing signs of depression, or you just feel like you are lost or stuck or not sure, where you're going in life, you have to be vulnerable, and you have to go seek help, and don't take it all in. You can't do it alone, and you'll be surprised at how many people out there are happy to help you, right? So don't go through it alone. Just pick up a phone, call a friend, tell your partner, tell your family, and you'll get through it, right? You'll get through it.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thanks so much,
all right.
guys.
Thank you. And thank you so much for listening. It's been another episode of Soulful Feasts, bite-sized information to nourish your body, mind, and spirit. We'll see you again next time.